Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to integrate our own artwork, right? So first of all, I'm going to turn back on the weapon camera, and that was actually right why my arms were looking a little busted in the previous demo, because I forgot I had the weapon camera turned off. And what we're going to do is we are going to, first of all, just take a look at how the controller works and how it's laid out, and then we're going to integrate our arm and gun artwork. So what we have here, right, the anatomy of the controller, we have the main game object, which contains the character controller that moves the player, along with the first-person script, input, a weapon handler, the crosshairs, and a bunch of respawning, a whole lot of behaviors here to give you a kind of an out-of-the-box. The HUD is on here, and the blood decals, right, for when you take damage. This is all out of the box on the main controller, right? The camera itself has the first-person camera component, obviously the regular Unity camera component, and then we've added the post-processing, and then the same for the weapon camera, right? We've added the post-processing to that. Then beneath it, you see we have a bunch of sort of holder objects for weapons. And we're going to be customizing and replacing the pistol, right? So what we have here is we have the first-person weapon script. This controls the positioning of the weapon and the movement using UFPS's kind of procedural spring-driven system, which is actually really cool. So let's just take a look at that for a second. So as you can see here, right, we can aim down sights, and look at the gun as I move back and forth. You can see it kind of swings from side to side. And if we run, it's going to go into this upward position. You see it kind of waggles around. If we jump, it does this kind of springing motion. And so all of this is not driven by animation. This is actually driven by this spring-based procedural motion system, script-driven motion that is included with UFPS. So I just find this really, really cool and interesting approach to the way they've done things, and actually suits our purposes really well because we do not have an arm with animation. We actually have a static arm, but by using their system, it's going to move around and kind of have that nice immersive feel to it. So taking a look at the pistol, right, we can see it's got the weapon script, which controls the movement. It's got a shooter, which controls like the projectile and firing behavior. It's got a reloading script, an item identifier. And so, but there's no gun, right? Right now, the guns are all stuck to his hand here. There's like, I don't know, it's a little hard to see. There's like multiple guns stuck to his hand. And so what we're going to do is we are going to replace one of the guns, the pistol, with our own gun. And so the easiest way to see this is if we enter play mode. So when we enter play mode, and let's actually exit maximize on play, unpause, we can see that now our pistol now has a child object, right? So there's a gun that's been instantiated, and you can see we have these floating arms. The guy also has no head, which is pretty cool. And there's a light for the muzzle flash. And so the pistol here now has this Pistol 01 clone, which has been instantiated, right? This is the prefab for the gun and the arms. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify this prefab or create a copy of it with our artwork and have that spawn in instead. And then that is going to be replaced in the first-person weapon in the rendering tab here. You'll see that we have here the gun that's being rendered is the first-person weapon, and by clicking on it, it will show us the asset in the project folder, right? So let's just exit play mode, and you can see the whole hierarchy of the body, pretty crazy. What we're going to do is we are, just look at all that, right? Do you want to do all that work? Do you want to set this all up? I know I don't. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our Pistol 01 prefab, drag it into the scene from the project folder, and here it is, right? Our weird disembodied arms and gun. And I'm just going to move it up into space to make it even more surreal. And so now, here's what we've got, right? If we expand the hierarchy, we can see we have the left arm. We don't actually need that. We're going to turn it off. We have the right arm. We don't need that either, but we're going to actually keep it as a reference for now. And then we have the gun, right? So what we want to do is we want to add in our own gun and position it so it's going to match, right? So it's going to be in roughly the right position. We'll still need to make some tweaks, but so it's going to be basically in the right spot for when it gets instantiated under the player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, I am using a customized version of the ARM, not from VR, from the VR samples project. Under models, shooter, there is this shooter FPS weapon. And I'm just going to drop this in. And I'm actually dropping it in as a child of the pistol, right? So this is now part of the hierarchy of the pistol. And we'll just frame select it on, here it is, right? This is this kind of low poly arm and gun, quite similar in configuration, right? And the only thing I'm going to do is swap out the material in the mesh renderer here. I'm just going to select my shooter FPS weapon standard shader material, which has got this nice shiny vertex look to it. So, you know, this is obviously a much better match for our Tron-like look, right? So we are going to replace our realistic gun with this. So what we're going to do is we are just going to position this so that it matches the positioning of the gun. And it's already a child of the Pistol 01 game object, right? So I'm just going to drag this in. And what I want to do, I want to match the position of the gun barrel, generally of the gun. The arm doesn't really need to match, but the gun barrel and the kind of muzzle should be kind of close because we're going to have a muzzle flash. We'll probably have to reposition it a little bit anyway, but let's just try to get it pretty close to start with. So, it looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit this way. Pretty close, right? Okay. That's going to work. So what we're going to do now is turn off the original, right? I wanted to keep it there for reference so I could see and line it up, but now we can turn off the right arm. You could delete these, but I'm just going to keep them in here for now. We're going to turn off the right arm, and then I'm going to click on the pistol, the original pistol. And this is actually further down the hierarchy as a child of the right shoulder. They have this whole system of, look, they have bones for each of the fingers. Like, it's really pretty elaborate and well fleshed out. We're not going to get that slick with it, right? Our fingers are not going to move. It's just like a big arm. But it's pretty cool the way they've set it up. And so what we're going to do is the pistol is, look at all the pieces of the pistol. Look, the clip, it's crazy. The hammer is a separate object. That's really cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to disable the whole right hand, right? So now we have our gun and arm in the right position. And what we're going to do, we can collapse that, is we are going to make a new prefab of Pistol 01. And this is going to be called Laser Pistol. I'm going to collapse it. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to Alt-click to collapse all of these guys, subfolders. And you can Alt-click on the triangle to expand everything or collapse everything. And I'm going to drag the laser pistol down into the UFPS session folder. And that is going to make a new prefab for me. And I'm going to use that, right? I'm just putting it in this folder just because all my other there's so much stuff in this project. I'm just going to keep it handy for the session. Okay, so now we can delete the hierarchy version, right? Because we've got a prefab of it. And what we need to do is go over to our pistol and add the newly created prefab to the first person weapon slot. So we're going to drag in the laser pistol here. And now we can test. So now our new arm spawns in, right? You can see it looks a little messed up with that shoulder there, right? So we're going to need to tweak the positioning. And if we try to aim down the sights, it looks really messed up, right? So we got to fix that. We're going to set the zoom position correctly. We're going to position the arm correctly, and we're going to adjust the details for the muzzle flash. We'll change the color and the sound and stuff and make it look nice and make it, more importantly, make it match our game, right? So that's up next. Somebody's asking if this is a prefabricated level. No, this is a custom level made by the R&D content team at Unity. This asset, I believe we will make it available at some point. I'm not sure when. I mean, we almost definitely will make it available because we make all our stuff available, but I'm not sure when. This is actually brand new stuff made by Pete Lee on the R&D content team, who was super helpful in getting the demo ready for this. But yeah, there is a level in UFPS, but it's like more of a realistic level that matches the style of their assets. But this level is a custom level. And that's kind of the idea, right? Is that we can take UFPS, bring in our custom artwork, and make something unique.